Oh, hello there, and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today I want to talk about one of the most consequential instruments invented in the second half of the 20th century, and this is the Minimoog. Now, we've talked about Dr. Robert Moog on this channel a lot because he was one of the most interesting men to invent a hitherto unknown and unknowable musical instrument in the modern era. But the modular Moog invented in the 1960s was, of course, this unwieldy instrument that wasn't really designed to travel with. Keith Emerson tried and to a degree succeeded in traveling with it, but it was an instrument that was huge with a patch bay, that was the biggest thing you've ever seen. Not necessarily even the most easy instrument to use, but the range of sounds and the ability of musicians to customize their performances through the manipulation of analog sounds with all of the various oscillators on the instrument, it provided endless sonic possibilities. And so Robert Moog decided to make a mini version of his modular Moog, and this was surprisingly called the Minimoog synthesizer. This instrument took the world by storm. Every artist had to have one, and it permeated so many different genres, which again is what I would consider the sign of success in terms of inventing a modern instrument. It was on jazz albums, disco albums, jazz fusion albums, soft rock, hard rock, progressive rock. Not huge in country and western, but not totally absent. It was in film scores. It was in commercial jingles. It was in the pop charts up and down, left and right. Now, what made this instrument so unique, pardon me, is that because of its portability, it really allowed artists to develop a unique style of playing that was really made just for this instrument and eventually for the other instruments by other companies that were similar. And this is the style of playing we know as lead synth playing. You've got a monophonic keyboard, meaning you can only hold down one note at a time. You can harmonize a little with the oscillators, but you cannot play chords. And so the style of rapid, virtuosic right-handed lead playing, in the style of, let's say, how one might play a lead guitar or even a violin or fiddle, you could do that kind of thing on the Mini Moog. And because of its warm but at the same time very forceful sonic aperture, if you will, its sound palette, it would really cut through every other instrument. Even if your amplification system wasn't quite as good as Chick Corea's behind me, it would really cut through. And the lead synth solo became something that was par for the course. Whether you were Chick Corea, whether you were Herbie Hancock, whether you were Jan Hammer, those people associated with jazz and jazz fusion, or whether you were Rick Wakeman, Keith Emerson in the prog rock genre. And of course, many instruments then by other companies like ARP, for instance, came out with lead synths of their own, and that style of playing entered the musical lexicon, and it has stayed there ever since. And of course, the Moog Corporation came out with polyphonic synths later, which influenced so many genres, including hip hop later on. One of the most influential musical inventors and musical companies of the modern era. But if you really had to pick of all of if you were to put just a small number of the modern 20th century keyboard instruments into a pantheon of their own, along with the Hammond organ and the Fender Rhodes electric piano, I would say that the Mini Moog would be right up there in the top three. Sorry, Mellotron, you're definitely in the top four or five, but the Mini Moog, because of its comparative portability, because of its comparative reliability, which different opinions on that one, but more reliable than a lot of the things that came before it and a lot of the things that coexisted with it. And because most of all, it created a new style of playing. Its technical limitations, in terms of the fact that you couldn't play chords, forced artists to use it in a unique way, which ended up giving rise to a hell of a lot of creativity. So Once again, congratulations to the late great Dr. Robert Moog on an invention that helped change the way music is played and how it sounds. We take it for granted now, but when it came out in 1970, it was really a revolutionary piece of gear. As always, like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.